Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Deans, and we like to watch things and read things here and then talk incessantly about them. And today I am very, very excited because today is my very first, drum roll please, BookHaul video. And I realize how redundant that drum roll was because you already know it's a BookHaul video because the thumbnail would have absolutely given that away. I was such a good girl this year. Santa gave me 15 books. And by Santa, of course, I mean my lovely friends and family who bought me a lot of book vouchers. They made this amazing haul that you see in front of you possible, and for that I am forever grateful. Now I want to talk about all these beautiful books that I've bought, but in order to sort of keep this video orderly and not chaotic, I'm going to categorize them. The first category is size does not matter. And within that category, I have bought the big girl herself, the Count of Monte Cristo. Now, usually a book like this would have me running for the hills, would intimidate me severely. However, once I found out what this book is actually about, I did not care. Size did not matter. So from what I know about this book, it is an epic revenge tale. And revenge tales are one of my favorite subplots in storytelling. You know, movies like Promising Young Woman, Old Boy, and Kill Bill. These are some of my favorite movies ever. So when I found out what The Count of Monte Cristo was actually about, I had to buy it. Thrown in prison for a crime he has not committed, Edmond Dantes is confined to the grim fortress of If. There he learns of a great hoard of treasure hidden on the Isle of Monte Cristo, and he becomes determined not only to escape, but also to use the treasure to plot the destruction of the three men responsible for his incarceration. I just feel like this plot was just like made in a lab specifically for me. The next category is the embarrassing reading blind spots. Now, there are a lot of authors that I am very embarrassed to admit that I have not read, and I have a few of them here. I decided to finally buy some works by them. So first off, we have Another Country by James Baldwin. Yes, I'm very embarrassed to admit that I have not read any James Baldwin yet. I am very familiar with James Baldwin. I've watched lots of documentaries about James Baldwin, but I have not yet read any of his. And when I was choosing what James Baldwin book to read, I kind of had like this massive existential crisis because everyone on the internet sort of like has a different opinion of which Baldwin you should start with. But I narrowed it down and I decided to pick up Another Country. When Another Country appeared in 1962, it caused a literary sensation. Among the storm of reviews, the Sunday Times said, "Let our novelist read Mr. Baldwin and tremble. There is a whirlwind loose in the land." So Another Country is set in the 50s in New York City, and it's about love, alienation, and exploration. And it follows like a cast of characters, and they all love each other and betray each other, and there's like sex and desire and crime, and it sounds delicious. This masterly story of desire, hatred, and violence opens with the unforgettable character of Rufus Scott, a scavenging Harlem jazz musician adrift in New York. Self-destructive, bad, and brilliant, he draws us into a bohemian underworld pulsing with heat, music, and sex, where desperate and dangerous characters betray, love, and test each other to the limit. James Baldwin is really famous for his lyrical writing, and he was really well known for writing about class tensions and racism in America. And I know that that's going to be the background of this book, so I'm really looking forward to reading this. Another embarrassing, severely embarrassing blind spot is Toni Morrison. I picked up The Bluest Eye and Sula. Everyone loves Toni Morrison. Everyone has at least one of her books in their like top 10 of the years, favorite book of all time. If I had $1 for every accolade that Miss Toni has won, I would be able to afford a deposit on like a one-bedroom apartment. Like that is how many awards, accolades, recognitions this woman has won for her writing. Some of her accolades include being the first Black woman to win a Nobel Prize for literature. She's also won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction, and she just sounds like a badass. Like James Baldwin, she often writes about the Black experience. I've heard that she draws a lot of inspiration from African American oral storytelling, and she writes from the perspective of marginalized characters, often African American women. She doesn't shy away from difficult subject matter, and her writing is known to be quite confronting and challenging. Yeah, I'm very, very excited to dip into both her and Baldwin. It's 2025. It's the year for Baldwin and Morrison. Another embarrassing blind spot is Claire Keegan. This woman is everywhere. She's on every corner. She's on every BookTube channel. I hear about her all the time. Honestly, Claire Keegan has more fans than Taylor Swift. So small things like these. It is 1985 in an Irish town. During the weeks leading up to Christmas, I should have read this like before Christmas. Anyway, during the weeks leading up to Christmas, Bill Forlong, a coal and timber merchant, faces his busiest season. As he goes around the house making deliveries, he feels the past rising up to meet him and encounters the complicit silences of a small community controlled by the church. Astonishing writer, this book goes straight to the heart, pitch perfect tale, best book of the year. So yeah, I need to know what all the fuss is about. Claire Keegan, I am reading you this year. And the final book in the very embarrassing literary blind spot category is Human Acts by Han Kang. And one of her books, which I actually have, that has been staring daggers at me for not picking it up, is The Vegetarian. The Vegetarian won the Booker Prize in 2016, I'm pretty sure. And it was the first Korean language novel to win that award. So that's a really, really big deal. Once I read this and I like it, I will absolutely also read The Vegetarian. Her work has been known to tackle the complexity of human experience. And I've heard that she often writes about trauma and like collective trauma in particular. And I think that's what Human Acts is about. Human Acts enrages, impassions, and most importantly, gives voices back to those who were silenced. South Korea, 1980. In the wake of a viciously suppressed student uprising, a boy searches for his friend's corpse, a consciousness searches for its abandoned body, and a brutalized country searches for a voice. This is a riveting and poetic examination of humanity at its most appalling and its most hopeful. Okay, the next category is authors that I read for the first time last year that I absolutely adored, and I've picked up more of their work. So the first author I want to talk about is John Steinbeck. I just think he's got such a deft hand when it comes to characterization. He writes these really like complex moral tales with really interesting three-dimensional characters. His villains are so interesting. Like I was always kind of like wanting to go back to their chapters as well as the heroes. Yeah, so I read East of Eden, I read Of Mice and Men, and I wanted to pick up a couple more for this year. So I picked up his novella, The Pearl, which I actually just finished today. It's about a Native American man who dreams of having a better life for his family. He's a pearl diver, and he essentially finds like the pearl of the world, like this amazing, huge, luminous pearl that he believes will be able to transform his life and his family's life. You know, in the story, the main character's wife can see the threats around them because of what they've found, and she's like trying to convince her husband to throw the pearl away, to get rid of the pearl, because she tells him it's only going to bring trouble to our family, and he refuses. And that desperation and that ambition sets them on a path that they can never return from. And yeah, I thought it was great. John Steinbeck is really talented at managing to, you know, write these really complex and three-dimensional characters in a very short amount of time. Like this was only 90 pages. This book also included some really nice illustrations. Really enjoyed this, really chilling, really sad. Reads like a cautionary tale. I also picked up I feel like the consensus is that Grapes of Wrath is his masterpiece, but I know that Steinbeck personally thinks that East of Eden is his greatest achievement. Regardless, yeah, I picked up The Grapes of Wrath. Another writer that I read for the first time last year and want to continue with is Ken Liu. Ken Liu's writing is unparalleled. It's unlike anything I've ever read. It's so lyrical, so beautiful. He writes predominantly fantasy, but he sort of weaves in like, you know, mythology and fairy tale traditions and oral storytelling. He sort of brings in a lot of like Chinese myths and Chinese fables into his writing. The name of the series is called The Dandelion Dynasty, and this is the first book in the series, The Grace of Kings. Look at that beautiful, beautiful cover. I think it's based on the Han Dynasty. An instant classic. This is a debut novel to be reckoned with. Also, you might be familiar with Ken Liu if you've read The Three Body Problem, because he actually translated the first one in the series. I'm not sure if he did the whole trilogy, but he definitely did the first one. He's the winner of the Nebula, Hugo, World Fantasy Locus, and Sidewise Awards. He's a former programmer and lawyer. Yeah, I think it's either like a fantasy retelling or it's inspired by the events of the Han Dynasty. So yeah, it just sounds epic. The next category is writers that I'm actually not very familiar with and books that I'm not very familiar with. However, they have been raved about by book critics that I really admire. So I picked up Swimming in the Dark. From what I know, this is a book about two boys who fall in love in Poland, in communist Poland in the 1980s. And they have this like whirlwind summer romance. And then their relationship is challenged and put at risk when they come back to the city, and they're under like the scrutiny and the intolerance and corruption of life under a totalitarian regime. Imagine Call Me By Your Name set in communist Poland, and you'll get a sense of Jodorowsky's moving debut about a consuming love affair amidst a country being torn apart. A beautiful lyrical romance. Yeah, I feel like this is going to make me cry a lot. And if you have been on this channel, you know that debilitating endings and very, very sad books are like my kink. I can't get enough of that. The next book in the category of writers and books that I wasn't really familiar with, but fellow booktubers that I love just rave about it, is The Wall by Marlin Haushofer. I've absolutely said that wrong. I apologize. To be honest, half of the reason I bought this book is because of the cover. I mean, stunning. She's a stunner. This book is translated from the German by Sean Whiteside, and I think it was written in the 60s. It's been described as like a classic dystopian novel. A woman takes a holiday in the Austrian mountains, spending a few days with her cousin and his wife in their hunting lodge. When the couple fails to return from a walk, the woman sets off to look for them, but her journey reaches a sinister and inexplicable dead end. She discovers only a transparent wall behind which there seems to be no life. Trapped alone behind the mysterious wall, she begins the arduous work of survival. Sounds a little bit like The Road, which is a book I just finished, so I feel like this could be a nice companion piece with that. Okay, the final categorization is colonization and history. So the first book in this category is What Does Israel Fear from Palestine by Raja Shehadeh. I have already read half of this, but I want to start again because I read it when I didn't have my pen, and when I was reading it, I was like mad that I wasn't able to underline so many like beautiful, like poetic and like really harrowing passages in this book. This book is basically chronicling the history of the colonization of occupied Palestine by Israel, and it also talks about the Nakba and the legacy of the Nakba and what that meant for Palestine and its natives. It's beautifully written. It's really, really short. I'm going to start it again, and I just want to underline everything. The next book in this category is Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. I've been wanting to read this for years, but what made me finally pick it up was I watched Apocalypse Now for the first time last year, which is the film that is inspired by this book. Marlowe, a ferryboat captain on foreign assignment in the Congo, searches for the legendary and feared Mr. Kurtz, unaware of what he will find. On his journey, he encounters the darkness of the wilderness, the darkness of colonization, and ultimately the darkness within every man. Heart of Darkness is a powerful indictment of the evils of imperialism. I really enjoyed that movie. I'm fascinated by, not in a good way, British imperialism and colonization. And yeah, this is one of those books that, like, you know, those lists, like 100 books you must read before you die or whatever. This is always on there. So Heart of Darkness, I will be reading that this year. The next book is Fantasyland by Kurt Anderson. Honestly, I bought this book because of the subtitle, How America Went Haywire, a 500-year history. I believe this aims to retell the history of America from the first settlers up until Trump, from the perspective that America is just one big con artist, and I just think that's hilarious. And facts. America is many things, one thing being an absolute clown, so the fact that this book confirms that for me in like a very historically factual and intelligent way is very, very enticing to me. The freedom to invent and believe whatever the hell you like has been a defining right in the United States ever since the Pilgrim Fathers first landed to practice their rogue beliefs. So to understand Trump's post-truth America, where the line between opinion and fact is being erased, you'll need to take a road trip across centuries of crackpot delusion from Salem to Scientology. Yeah, hilarious. I can't wait to read this one. I've never read a history book that is as insightful and at the same time as funny as this one. A great revisionist history of America. Welcome to the land of the free and home of the fake. And the final book in this category is Empire World by Sathnam Sanghera. I've absolutely said that wrong. I apologize. This book is just meant to be absolutely incredible. It's about British imperialism and its influence on the rest of the world and its legacy. Sathnam is an award-winning author. His first book, Empireland, was focused, I think, more singularly on the impact of British imperialism on Britain And this one is about the impact on the rest of the world. Yeah, exploring the international legacies of British Empire, from the creation of tea plantations across the globe to environmental destruction, conservation, and the imperial connotations of royal tours. His journey takes him from Barbados and Mauritius to India and Nigeria and beyond. In doing so, Sanghira demonstrates just how deeply British imperialism is baked into our world and why it's time Britain was finally honest with itself about empire. Ugh. I got chills, like, just reading that for you guys. And that's it. Those are the 15 books that I bought. I'm going to stop talking about these books and I'm going to start reading them. Thank you so much for watching. If you have read any of these books, let me know in the comments. If there's ones you think I should prioritize over others, let me know. If there's ones that you didn't really care for, let me know. I just want to hear all your opinions on these. Mum, I love you. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye.